Former Vice President Kamala Harris makes her big announcement.
And it shakes up the 2026 race big time.
My plans are to be in touch with my community.
After months of consideration, Kamala Harris says, quote, "I love this state, its people, and its promise. It is my home. But after deep reflection, I've decided that I will not run for governor in this election."
I certainly weighed in and shared with her my thoughts.
Democratic Congressmember Sidney Comlager-Dove is thinking about advice that Harris offered her back in January.
She said, make sure that the decisions that you make are right for you. Do not forget that you owe yourself before you owe anyone else, and to be as authentic as you can. So I'm hoping and I believe that she's taking her own advice.
Harris's statement says, quote, "For now, my leadership in public service will not be an elected office. I look forward to getting back out and listening to the American people, helping elect Democrats across the nation who will fight fearlessly, and sharing more details in the months ahead about my own plans."
I could certainly see her, running a think tank. I could certainly see her taking the helm of a law firm.
Voters that Fox 11's Christina Gonzalez spoke with think Harris isn't quite done with politics yet.
Maybe she's planning to run for president again.
I voted for Harris in 2024. I wouldn't have supported her if there was, a real primary.
She always played the game, and I never was that interested in her.
As for the California governor's race, almost all the major Democrats who are running put out statements praising Harris, while the Republicans running bashed Harris's record.
The fact that she has now made this decision at the end of July finally allows the California 26 governor's race to begin.
Dan Schnurr teaches politics at USC, UC Berkeley, and Pepperdine. He says with Harris out, candidates are furiously calling her donors right now.
Maybe if you're a Democratic donor, put your phone on airplane mode.
Maybe just for a couple of months.
Businessman Rick Caruso says he'll decide whether to run for LA mayor or California governor, quote, after summer. Just this week, he posted photos with former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown, showing him the Capitol, after Brown recently suggested he'd make a good governor.
I don't think it would be too much of a reach to say that the likelihood of Rick Caruso running for governor is markedly higher than it was a week ago.
All right, we were talking about this before we knew her decision, and we both thought that she would make a run because it seemed like she'd be a shoo-in to be the California governor.
Or at least a very, very strong favorite. Probably would have had a 70% chance of winning. So it's amazing for politicians to not take what would be guaranteed power and make a different decision.
So in other words, we're both surprised. For more on Harris's announcement, let's bring in Melanie Mason. She is a senior political reporter covering California politics at Politico. Good to see you. Were you surprised as well, Melanie? And what factors are you hearing went into her decision?
I think even more than surprise, it was relief, and not on the substance of the decision, to be clear, but that I or any other journalist didn't get scooped, right? I think that was the fear of every political reporter for the last few months, was we were going to wake up one morning and be like, oh, one of our competitors got the goods. So I think that it was just like, okay, the mystery's solved. We can move on now. We can figure out what went into this decision and also what comes next, because as we all know, everything was just in limbo until she made this decision, and now it feels like we can finally see this governor's race get going.
So some of people close to Harris have been speaking today who've been authorized by her to do so. What are you hearing from your sources in terms of why she really made this decision?
I think it came down at the end of the day to a gut decision. I mean, look, California governor, it's a prime job. It's also not an easy job. And I think that if you weren't fully committed to taking on this role, I think that ultimately she decided that that was not where her passions lie. And, perhaps if this decision didn't come up so quickly after the grueling presidential campaign that she just went through, after the grueling 4 years, maybe she would have come to a different decision. But I think that ultimately there's a gut check of, do I want to be spending the next year and a half and then potentially the next 4 to 8 years in a really tough campaign and then in a really tough job, or are her interests elsewhere?
Yeah.
As journalists, this makes it a lot more interesting to cover the upcoming race, the race that's already underway. Who does this benefit the most?
I think immediately we look to former Congresswoman Katie Porter. I mean, she's the candidate who has the most name ID, particularly among the Democrats, since she ran for Senate a couple years ago, and she just has this national profile. You know, she's the one with the whiteboards on MSNBC all the time. So I think that there's a lot of assumption that all eyes will turn to her. But I think, look, any number of these Democrats, I think they now feel like things were so unsettled that they can sort of walk in and maybe make their case, and that people will be more receptive to their pitches now that they know that Harris is not getting in. I think the other person who your package mentioned is Rick Caruso. Well, of course, we don't know what he's going to do, but my phone certainly was blowing up today with a lot more Caruso speculation than it had been even a couple weeks ago. So I think that the possibility that we might see more entrants into this race, that it's not just the field that we already know, I think that did increase today.
And another person that really helps is Lieutenant Governor Melanie who is close friends with Kamala Harris, has backed her in the past, probably would have dropped out of the race if she wasn't in, and now she gets a chance to spend her sizable war chest on this race for governor. So in terms of the presidency, what do you think about that? Because it certainly seemed like she's leaving open the possibility if you read that statement.
Yeah, I think that the possibility absolutely is left open. And I think she also knows it's a really long time between now and when that 2028 primary begins in earnest. And I think for me, the bigger question is, what does the interim look like for her? You know, there's lots of conversation about if she wants to have some sort of philanthropic role, some sort of nonprofit that she can sort of work on these issues that she cares about. And does that offer her an opportunity to rebrand herself in a way? I think that she is aware, after serving in Democratic politics for so long, that she's part of the establishment now. And we're very much in an era where Democrats are kind of chafing against the establishment. They want something new. So in between now and when 2028 gets started, does she have an opportunity to present a new side of Kamala Harris, maybe reintroduce herself? I think that will go a long way to telling us if she ultimately decides to get in the race or not. But why close the door too early if you don't have to?
And she was quoted in basically saying that maybe she'll be able to talk in less talking points now. We should also point out, we put up the list of candidates. We showed the Democratic candidates for governor. We also know there are Republican candidates as well, and they get a good chance to get into the top two in this sort of situation as well, potentially. So don't count out that as a possibility as well. Melanie Mason, thank you. Appreciate the insight as always.
Melanie. Thanks.